many times I said that everybody needs to learn Zohar. There are some limitations in who and what and how, but the book of Zohar itself says why and how important it is, and to make it more official, I'll read out of the Zohar. This can be found in Parashat Naso, in the page 124b, and it says as follows: דבר זה מבואר בספר הזוהר הקדוש מפי קודשו של משה רבנו עליו השלום. This concept is being clarified in the holy book of Zohar from the holy mouth of Moshe Rabbeinu, who is called Raya Mehemna. Raya Mehemna is a trustworthy shepherd. אשר היה נגלה לרבי שמעון בר יוחאי. Moshe Rabbeinu revealed himself to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and to his friends, the students of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. במעמד מלא הוד ומגלה להם סתרי תורה. In a revelation, and at the time that is full of splendor, which is the sphere of Hod, and Moshe Rabbeinu would reveal to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his students secrets from the Torah. וכך אומר משה רבנו לרשב"י בזוהר הקדוש. This is what Moshe Rabbeinu says to Rashbi in the Holy Zohar. בהאי חיבורה דילך דאיהו ספר הזוהר יפקון בה מן גלותא ברחמי. What does it mean? In the merit of this book that you compiled, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Zohar HaKadosh, the Holy Zohar, the nation of Israel will exit or leave the exile with mercy. Which means that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote in the Zohar, Parashat Naso, page 124, from the mouth of Moshe Rabbeinu, that with this book, we will go out of exile in mercy. Now, as I told you in the previous class, in the 70s, Tafshin Ayin, it could have come in Chasadim. In the 80s, Tafshin Pei, it will come in Gvurot. I told you that based on the verse of Tehillim, Yemei Chayecha 70 shana, ve'im Gvurot 80 shana. So now we're in the 80s, we're in Tafshin Peis, we're in Pei Dalet now, 84. So the whole 10 years will come big Gvurot. But that's not necessarily bad, because Gvurot are judgments, but if they are directed to the right way and they're sweetened, it's better to have things with Gvura. But nevertheless, what is he saying here? That the redemption will come as I said how it will come, and that's what we're going to read today. It's not going to come nice, but it can come with mercy. They're not nice with a lot of mercy. How would you bring a lot of mercy? Midat Achez, Mitat Arachamim, is with the Sefer HaZohar. Now let's read another thing. It says that in the merit of the book of the Zohar, will merit what's called Ukratem Dror Ba'aretz. What is Ukratem Dror Ba'aretz? This is a verse from the book of Vayikra, chapter 25, verse 10. Proclaim freedom for the slaves throughout the land. Who are the slaves? We are the slaves. Why are we slaves? First of all, if you are a slave to Hashem, then you won the jackpot. I am a slave to Hashem. But most people are not slaves to Hashem. They are a slave to their job, a slave to their car, a slave to their phone, a slave to all their desires, etc. Then they're slaves. I told you already that. But interestingly, here says, proclaim freedom. Ignore the slaves for a second. Throughout the land. We are slaves in this land to this government. This is not a government that I elected. I elect the government of Bet David, not of the Likud, not of Meretz, not of Israel Beiteinu. I didn't elect any of these parties. I vote for Malchut Bet David. Which means that the citizens and the residents of Israel are slaves to the government. The exact same way that the American citizens are slaves to the American government. So the verse says, Ukratem dror ba'aretz, that you proclaim freedom from your slavery. That's redemption. So it says in Tikkunei HaZohar, בשעה שאליהו הנביא זכור לו טוב נגלה לרבי שמעון בר יוחאי ולחבריה הקדישה שעימו, when Eliyahu Navi revealed himself to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his students, ולמד איתם סתרי תורה, then he taught them the secrets of the Torah, specifically בעניין תיקוני נשמות, in the topic of rectifying a neshama. When a soul sins, when the person sins, the soul gets damaged. Depends if it's nefesh, ruach, or neshama. He's saying here tikkun neshamot, not tikkun nefashot, which makes a big difference, means tikkun of the neshama. And when there's a blemish, it needs to be fixed. Very simple. And by the way, I'm saying that as a side note because a lot of people are interested to know. Many people asked, after seeing the atrocities of the terror attack 3 weeks ago, how can Hashem allow babies' heads to be cut off and women to be cut to pieces? And you don't need the visuals. As a very big question, we know based on the Midrash that many babies at the time of Mitzrayim were killed. The time of Mitzrayim, I'm talking about the exile of Egypt, 3,300 plus years ago. So 150 babies were slaughtered every day by Paro or one of his assistants to bathe in their blood because he had tzarat. Paro had leprosy, and his advisors told him that if he will dip in the blood of 150 Jewish babies, then that will help. It didn't work, but nevertheless, that's what he did. Just imagine how many babies had to be slaughtered. And the Midrash says that they would use on purpose babies instead of bricks and put babies in the wall. So the big question is, why would that be allowed to happen? The answer is very simple. The souls of these babies were the people from the generation of dispersion, the first, we'll call, we're not going to call them Freemasons, but they're called Bonei HaMigdal. The ones who built the tower of the generation of dispersion. And what did they say? Hava nilbena levenim. Let's go and make ourselves bricks. Why? So we can build a building and reach to the heavens and go and destroy the God. They, of course, all died. What was their tikkun, their rectification? To be the bricks that they wanted to do. So here you have an answer why the babies were used as bricks. Midah keneged midah, measure for measure. So why am I telling you this right now? Because Eliyahu Navi and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai were talking about tikkun neshamot. You know how many souls of the nation of Israel need a tikkun? Because they were heretics, because they were idolaters, because they were cheaters, and so forth. Who says that it's not us? Right? How many Jews were heretics? How many Jews were idolaters? How many Jews were Mosrim, giving over other Jews to the government? And horrible, horrible sins. They need a tikkun. Take now the most extreme liberal left-wing person in Israel. We're not going to name names right now. And they talk like a Nazi. They behave like a Nazi. Their ideology is distorted. Assuming that person is Jewish. Obviously not observant at all, which means goes completely against God. What is the status of this person? Needless to say, a sinner. How many karets are on this person, and so forth. One might say, this is like you can lose the soul for eternity. Comes Hashem and says, wait. There's a Jewish neshama there? Damaged completely? It can still reach a tikkun. So when I see all these atrocities, I'm not going to point fingers right now. It's very easy to point fingers. It's because of this, it's because of that. Not pointing fingers. My opinion is, I don't want to share my opinion right now. I'll tell you my opinion another time. But the point is that who are we to make assumptions or to point fingers at? And many times, people die in horrible ways because it's a rectification for something they did in a previous life. And say thank you that Hashem was merciful to do it to them even. Let's go back to the text. Eliyahu Navi was teaching secrets of the Torah to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai when it comes to tikkun neshamot, fixing souls. You all need to do a tikkun. I don't know how much the tikkun needs to do. That's why we're learning Shar HaGilgulim. So you will know how to reach your tikkun. Because if you didn't, then you'll have to come back here again. Since Mashiach is coming very soon, you're not going to get another chance of a Gilgul. Get it done now. As Eliyahu Navi is teaching them, Yatza'a bat kol mishamayim, a heavenly voice came out and said, Kama rav kocho v'kedushato shel Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, how strong and great is the power and the holiness of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in this world. And later on, the bat kol, the heavenly voice added and said a prophecy. And that's the prophecy. V'chama bnei nasha letata yitparnesun mihai chibur adilach kad yitgalu letata bedara betar'a besof yom haya uvegina kratem dror ba'aretz. Translation and explanation: how many people will be benefiting from this book when it's going to be revealed at the end generation, Besof hayamim, at the end of days, and in the merit of this book will be fulfilled the verse Ukratem dror ba'aretz, you will proclaim freedom of the land, Hameramez ala geula shlema, that is hinted about the complete and final redemption. This can be found in Gilui Eliyahu Lerashbi b'Tikunei HaZohar Tikun Vav. From Tikunei HaZohar, this is in Tikun 6, if you want to read it and read the whole thing. But basically saying, in other words, by Eliyahu Navi, you can't even fathom the power of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in this world and his holiness. And since he's the one who compiled the Zohar, he's giving us a prophecy, and I'll read it again. I know you don't like me repeating myself. Is that with this book that we will be revealed at the end of days. Who had the Zohar 100 years ago? No one. The first sprouts of Zohar was in the 20s and the 30s by the Baal HaSulam. And then it started being revealed a little bit. 120 years ago, nobody knew what the Zohar is, or who it is, or where it is. I mean, some people knew. But no, it wasn't revealed. Now everybody knows what the Zohar is, and now, of course, it needs to be learned the right way. It needs to be addressed the right way. But we have 2 points. I'll read, every class will do of the Zohar. I'll read one quote of one of the Tikkunim, or one of the places that will inspire you why you need to learn Zohar. I will dedicate a class to the halachic point of view of it, because a lot of people are scared to learn. Women can learn Zohar, parts of the Zohar. Gentile can learn parts of the Zohar. To read the Zohar, everybody can. You don't understand it. This is called ligros. You just read it like Tehillim. That is allowed. That is allowed by women. You can do that with no problem. To learning Zohar in depth, some of the things should not be learned by Gentiles or women. I'll explain in another time why. But when I teach you a class, it's not in the level that we can consider it Limud Zohar. I'm teaching you a class. So you are safe to listen to what I say, and whatever I think is not appropriate for somebody to learn, then I just don't post it or I don't teach it. So when I teach something, you're pretty much okay with following what I say.